Welcome back to It's in the Details. As always, please remember to hit those buttons, tell a friend to tell a friend if you're enjoying the show. I've been watching a lot of female-led television lately. American Crime Story, the impeachment of Bill Clinton, Queens. Talk to my cousins about Queens, talk to y'all about Queens. Queens is here and I've been watching it. And Kevin Can F Himself. That's a show driven by Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek in a very different role. But first, I left the house, y'all. I left the house. I've been doing stuff. I've been playing some golf, a little bit of shopping, but I haven't really been doing things yet. I have re-entered society in a pretty big way, I think. I didn't do it as an announcement. I did it because it was a thing that popped up. I went to see Chappelle. I went to see Mr. Chappelle. It's my first time seeing him live. It was interesting. It was really interesting. I enjoyed myself. I don't know if it was the spectacular that I expected it to be, and maybe that I expected it to be anything created this kind of middle ground feeling that I have about it. I'm not sure, but the night included a screening of his new documentary, currently called Untitled. I don't know if it's going to change. I think they should leave it as Untitled, right? But it was a screening of his new documentary that you've probably heard about. And friends. He brought friends. Jeff Ross was there. The Roast Master General. He was there. Hilarious. Up and coming. Everybody doesn't know about them. But Sam J was there. Hilarious comedian. Also has a comedy special I haven't gotten to yet, and an HBO show that I've seen parts of, but Sam J was there. And they brought out Cardinal Official. It seems like Dave, wherever the stop is, he's got a local superstar that he has joined him and performed some music. I heard in Atlanta, Little John was there. So we got Cardinal. And I've never been a huge fan of Cardinal's music. I like it. I got respect for what he does for the city, 100%. But he killed it on the mic in between songs. He was funny. He was poignant. Cardinal held it down like Dave gave him some comedy tips. But Cardinal is Canadian and Jamaican, so I feel like that was already in his blood, if you feel me. But the documentary. The documentary was solid. It basically follows the summer camp that he had for comedians and performers in Yellow Springs, Ohio, during the pandemic. People couldn't make money the same way they were used to. Artists and comedians, performers, they couldn't have venues because we couldn't put large amounts of people in indoor spaces. He lives in rural Ohio. He's got a buddy that had a 5-acre farm. It's an agricultural space. He had a large space in the area, and they built out an outdoor venue for comedy and music. And it details all of those things. It was solid. It also detailed much of what was going on with the civil rights protests really all over the world, but primarily in the United States. They ran protests in Yellow Springs, Ohio, predominantly white area. For 23 weeks, they held protests. And I think they were mainly driven by his children. I think he's got kids that are as old as 20 down into the teens. And they were out there really driving, it seems, those protests. So the documentary was very thoughtful, thought-provoking, poignant, very hilarious. It had everything. What stuck out for me was getting to see Dave behind the scenes. Getting to see him in the green room, getting ready for shows, in the green room, watching a monitor of his fellow comedians on stage performing, how he's immediately feeling about their performances, tips that he had for them when they got backstage. Really interesting to see him digest their material, especially after seeing some of them perform for many, many, many sets over years, and seeing how he was digesting that and giving it to them and seeing what they did with it and how they took that info back on stage the next time they went up or several times later, whatever it was. But for me, getting to see him talk in that manner, getting to see his brain work in that way was almost worth the price of admission to get to go see this show. And Jeff Ross was there, Sam J was there, Cardinal was there, Dave Chappelle did 30 or 45 minutes of stand-up. For me, watching him do that in that documentary was almost worth the price of admission. It was really fun. But the documentary is strong. I enjoyed it. I think you should definitely sit down and watch it as soon as an opportunity presents itself. It's not mind-blowing, okay? It's not like the best thing you've ever seen, but there are some really interesting moments, even aside from the backstage stuff. There at some point was a big battle with the zoning board as to whether or not they should continue to be allowed to do these shows, because for many different reasons, people in the community had big issues with him putting on these shows too loud, too many lights, too many tourists. Those are some of the reasons people did not like that Dave Chappelle was putting on this show. They were probably aware also that Dave Chappelle's children were leading protests or a major part of protests in the neighborhood, and they were upset about it. There was also the opposite. The businesses in the community were fledgling during the pandemic, and all these tourists that were brought to Yellow Springs, Ohio, brought cash and probably kept many, many, many businesses afloat during a difficult time for everyone all over the world. So you could watch and see how that all goes, but it's a good documentary. He found himself in some trouble after his last special, and I believe his documentary prior to that last special coming out was being screened at many different festivals all over the world. I think it might have actually won some awards already. And post that special was pulled from many different festivals, disinvited, if you will. This is the world we live in now. But watch the doc as soon as you can. If for some reason someone in the States is watching this and he's coming to your town and the tickets aren't already sold out, go get them. Go get them and go watch. I got a new mask. I got a special mask for the show. Threw away some cloth, got something with some letters and numbers on it. You know, just in case. I'm not trying to catch COVID. You know what I mean? But it was a solid documentary. If you like Dave, you'll definitely like Untitled. The first female-driven show we're going to get into is American Crime Story, Impeachment. I was not really sure I was going to ever talk about this show. Bill Clinton is like 70,000 years old. He's really old, right? I don't know why they made this now. I think his health is bad too. I'm not standing up for Bill Clinton, okay? That's not what I'm doing. But I didn't know that this was necessary, this whole thing. I found out that Monica Lewinsky had a big part in making this show. Okay? She wanted to be a part of it. She wanted to tell this story to a certain degree from her perspective. Okay? And I don't know Monica. I was pretty young when this happened, or when it happened in the 90s. So I was aware of it, but I wasn't actually aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew it was happening. I didn't really know what it meant, right? So I have to take her word for it that this is the representation that she'd like to have out there. Fine, right? You get to find out some really dark things about the media. You get to find out some really dark things about how society as a whole kind of treated her and Linda Tripp. I don't know what you remember about Linda Tripp, but in general, what she did was foul. She secretly recorded a woman she allowed to believe she was friends with because she thought what her and Bill were doing were detrimental to the country. Okay. Seemed foul, especially when you hear the tapes, when you hear how she was just stringing her along to pull all this information out. It's a little bit gross, right? But Linda Tripp was vilified, and that was before social media. It's actually funny to think about, because if this happened 20 years later, Linda Tripp got off easy. she got off easy, and she did not get off easy back then. But she got off easy because it happened 30 years ago, and no social media to really, really drag this woman. But nonetheless, her and Monica dragged. Their lives were impossible to live. I can't imagine what it was like to be her friends and family. Just terrible, terrible stuff. That's what's going on in the show. But female-led dramas is what I'm really talking about today, or female-led shows is what I'm really talking about today. And Sarah Paulson and Beanie Feldstein, wow. Beanie Feldstein played Monica Lewinsky. Sarah Paulson knocked it out of the park again in another American crime story as Linda Tripp. She played Marcia Clark in the first one on OJ. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The Sarah Paulson, beautiful woman. I've seen her do so many different things. Ocean's 8, like I said, American Crime Story. She was in 12 Years a Slave. She was in a lot of stuff before I even knew who she was. And now I have nothing but respect for her acting ability. But also, she went through a full transformation to play Linda Tripp. She doesn't look anything like Linda Tripp. And in the show, she doesn't look anything like Sarah Paulson. Full body transformation. She's got shoulders sunken in, the hair, the makeup, the voice, just everything wonderfully done by her. Watch Sarah Paulson do more stuff. I'm not a horror person, so I haven't seen her in American Horror Story. And I won't. I'm sure it's great. Everybody else enjoy it. Not for me. But she was great in this. Beanie Feldstein, I think she's in Lady Bird. I'm not positive, but I think she's also in Lady Bird. But if she's not, my apologies. But she is amazing in this as Monica Lewinsky. She really captured, I think, the youth of Monica Lewinsky at the time. I believe she was 21 or so when all of this went down. She really captured, immaturity feels like a strong word for Monica at the time. Naivete might be better. Just a level of a lack of awareness of what is actually going on in the relationships that she currently has, and what could happen if this information gets out. The lack of awareness of what the relationship she actually had with the president as well. And much of that has to do with this grown, powerful man who's telling her and making her believe things. And she believes him. Because why wouldn't she, really? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't she? Because the most powerful man on earth is giving her the time of day and a lot of other stuff. You know what happened. You know what happened. But those two ladies held it down. They're the main characters in the story. Clive Owen plays Bill Clinton. I thought he was very strong in that as well. But Sarah Paulson, Beanie Feldstein, applause. Applause to you. To start out the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about Schitt's Creek. I believe the final season aired somewhere towards the middle of that first year of the pandemic. It had already blown up huge by then. I had just found it a few months before that. But I've talked to quite a number of people earlier on in the beginning of my show about Schitt's Creek. Everybody loves it. It makes you feel good. People are saying all the right things. And for me, a real standout of that show was Annie Murphy. She plays Alexis. Annie Murphy has come to our screens again in a dramedy called Kevin Can F Himself. She's the lead. She's wonderful in it. She plays a character that lives in Massachusetts. So she's bringing a Boston, Massachusetts accent to her character. She looks completely different from Alexis, carries herself in a completely different way. They're not nearly as affluent. And she is married to a real problematic kind of dude. Okay? You got to watch it to see it, really. But he is, he's not a nice guy. He's not abusive physically, but he is kind of helpless and manipulative. He's not a good dude. Another interesting point to this show is it's shot in two different kinds of ways. So they give you traditional sitcom, think Cosby Show, think All in the Family, like old traditional sitcom. The lighting's outrageous, right? It's shot as if there's a live studio audience, right? And we typically only see 4 or 5 characters mainly in that sitcom space. They're trying to yuck it up. They're trying to really make it fun and funny. It isn't. It's mostly weird for me. It gets funnier in the 4th, 5th episode. There are some moments where you really get a good laugh. But that's primarily where her husband lives. He lives in this sitcom space. Annie Murphy's character goes into that space with her husband and some of the family members, but she comes into another space, which is real life, where we get to see her true thoughts and feelings throughout the show. It's much darker space, both visually and mentally. And in that space, we find out that Annie Murphy's character is planning to kill her husband. Okay? I've seen some places online that have problems with the setup of the show. The show is not amazing. To me, this first season was shot and written as if they knew already they were going to have 2 seasons, because you don't have to kill him. you don't have to kill him. There's a lot of other things she could do instead of attempting to kill her husband. So it's a little bit problematic, but I'm not really concerned with that. I'm thinking there will be a second season. There's enough good stuff in the first season for me to come back for a second season. What I'm interested in is her I guess she is her sister-in-law. She's a neighbor. She's another main character in the show. And as the show develops, the two of them develop a relationship. And the show created a reason for the two of them to take a road trip. The road trip episode is my favorite episode. It is the most off the wall. Just they get in some crazy situations on this road trip, and they spend time in a car talking to one another. And they really develop a strong relationship on that road trip in that episode. And you really grow to, or at least I did, really grow to enjoy these two characters. Both actresses are super strong. You really enjoy watching them develop. You really enjoy seeing the moment they spark friendship. And I personally, their friendship really sparks with a completely terrible off-color joke. And a lot of my friendships seem to have really been cemented in and around those places too. So it was, I guess that's why it talked to me. But getting to see these two women on screen go through that was really interesting. And if you can get a hold of Kevin Kneff himself, give it a watch. Be patient with it. It's only 7 episodes, right? But it feels artistic. And I think if you're open to it, you will enjoy it. So give it a shot. Many weeks ago, I talked to my cousins about Queens. Queens is the show starring Eve, Brandy, Naturi Houghton, and Nadine Velasquez. Okay? I talked about it several weeks ago, straight to the people. I said, I'm excited for Queens. I expect the first couple episodes to maybe not be so hot, right? Maybe around episode 3, 4, 5, it would start to pick up and become a better show. People, I was right. The first episode was better than I expected. So was the second one. 3, 4, 5 really starts picking up. And I just put it this way. They're going for it. They are going for it on Queens. They're not holding back. It's not Stars. Like if this was a 50 show or on 50's channel, this is what Stars is really 50 owns Stars. He's got so many TV shows. They're amazing. If this was a show on Stars where they could be even more real, more raw, then I'd be really interested in seeing it. But where it is now, it's still strong. It's so strong. They are not holding any punches. Put it this way, y'all. There's a funeral in episode, I think it's 4. There's a funeral, okay? And somebody's mistress, their mistress shows up to the funeral, okay? Their mistress. And Eve and Brandy and Nadine Velasquez and Naturi Houghton are not happy that this mistress has shown up to the funeral. And you can imagine, all the things that might happen at a funeral where that circumstance presents itself, and you would never guess what happens at this funeral, okay? It is a wow. Okay? Just a wow. You got to see it. Then there's fallout from things like that. Just, Queens is good. Queens is really good. Queens is appointment viewing. It's 100% appointment. When Queens is on, you need to be at your TV. Eve. I did not know Eve could act like this. Eve is strong, a strong actress, and I would call her the main character. Strong. Nadine Velasquez, I've loved her in other things. She is even better in this than I could have hoped she would have been. Okay? Notori Houghton is giving you multiple characters. Okay? I think we're going to settle into a character around episode 4 or 5. I think this is who she's going to be for a little while. But the first 2-3 episodes is not who she becomes in the 4th, 5th episodes. Okay? And Brandy, now we know Brandy can act already. Okay? Moesha, we know Brandy can act already, right? But what I did not know, one, Brandy is stunning. Okay? I'm not here for the objectification. I'm just telling you, Brandy is stunning. All of the women look stunning. They all look great. Hair and makeup, killing it. Jeans brought to you by their moms and dads. Fantastic, okay? Fantastic. But the hair and makeup, fantastic in the show. But Brandy looks spectacular. You can't fathom how good Brandy looks in this show. So her acting's killing it. She looks amazing. And I did not know Brandy could rap. But the music on the show is fabulous. So strong. Maybe it's talking right to me because they're making the music of my time as a formative, in my formative years. This is the music I was listening to. But the music is amazing. But Brandy's rapping. I can't believe she's this good. I'm waiting for a rap album to drop from Brandy. Or I'm going to have to download the Queen soundtrack. One or the other. But it's amazing. Okay? Queens is not disappointing. I'm looking forward to seasons 2, 3, 4, 5. However many they want to give, I want them all. Okay? Also, we got guest stars. Cameron's in it. Did not know Cameron was going to show up. Jadakiss made an appearance in episode 5. And hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, man. Queens. So we get to watch these 4 ladies kill it every episode. Every single episode. Drama. Hilarious. The dancing, the rapping, the singing, the music. They got a young starlet. I did not look up her name, but they got a young rap queen that they're mentoring in the show. Guys, get you some queens. And once again, thank you so much for joining me on It's in the Details. As always, please remember to hit those buttons. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll see y'all in a week. Take care. Peace.